Okay, so I feel like I speak for everyone when I say that it's about goddamn time that this marathon comes to an end. We're finally at the fourth and final Sly game in the series, and this is actually the first and only Sly game that wasn't developed by Sucker Punch either. By the way, if you're wondering why I don't have a physical copy for Sly 4 like I do with Sly 1, 2, and 3, it's because I'm playing the game digitally, so unless you want me to, like, take apart my PS3 and just show you all the shit that's inside, I can't really, like, show you the game case. So after Sly 3 was released in 2005, Sucker Punch was ready to move on to their next project, Infamous, but because of this one at the end of Honor Among Thieves.
So while this might be the end of our adventures together, it could be the start of something even bigger. Time will tell. Literally. 'Cause I'm building a time machine to find out.
It left people wanting more, even though in my opinion, Sly 3 ended off things on a satisfying note. But for a while, on our end at least, it seemed like we weren't getting any more Sly, but behind the scenes, an up-and-coming developer named Sanzaru Games, who at this point made Ninja Reflex on Wii and the DS, and the PS2 port of Secret Agent oh my god. Came to Sony with a prototype build of what Sly 4 would be. While Sony was impressed with the prototype, they wouldn't give Sanzaru the wheel to develop another Sly game. They decided to let them remaster the first 3 games for the Sly Collection, which was released in 2010, and while there were a couple of hiccups like the black borders not filling up the entire screen, or how the silhouettes on Sly in the game in the first 2 games aren't there, but it did a decent job being an HD upgrade to the PS2 games. Afterwards, they were finally greenlit to make Sly 4. Fun fact, in the Sly Collection, there's actually a short teaser that's showing that another Sly game is in development. And there's also some Easter eggs and references to Sly Cooper in Infamous, but I guess that was bound to happen since Uncharted did the same thing with the Power Cell Orb treasure that you can find in every game in the series. But in E3 2010, Sly 4 was finally announced for the PlayStation 3, and the way they did the trailer would honestly make any Sly fan excited for this. This honestly feels like something Ratchet & Clank would do, but instead it's just Cork and Scrunch pretending to be Ratchet & Clank.
I'm not your cheesy macaroni, Sly Cooper. You good? Dimitri!
Bentley, this is the last time we ever leave Dimitri in charge of the hideout.
It was also the first time.
And while that trailer only produced a lot of hype for Sly fans everywhere, throughout 2011 and 2012, Sanzaru released more footage for the gameplay and story, and looking at the E3 footage, this game looked really rough, but thankfully the final game looked better than what they showed off, and the game looked better the more they showed it off. Sanzaru also kept the tradition that Sly 2 and 3 set with having a gimmick with the game. This time, if you buy the PS3 version of the game, then you get the PS Vita version free through a code on the PSN store, which doesn't really sound as cool as having 3D glasses or having something that lets you directly interact with the game, but it's nice to see the people at Sanzaru trying to keep the tradition alive. There was also a lot of trailers where the characters would speak to the audience, like Murray explaining why he wears a shirt but no pants, Bentley getting mad at tech support, Carmelita trying to use an online dating site, and my personal favorite, Sly trying to use his psychic powers.
That last bit? People do not need to know about that.
There's also a contest where fans could design their own treasures and have a chance to get them in the game. So remember how Ratchet & Clank 2 had that one contest that lets you design your own weapon and have a chance to get them in the game? It's basically like that. The game was originally going to be released in the fall of 2012 to celebrate the series' 10th anniversary, but because Sony thought that it wouldn't do well against the other big titles that were coming out that year, it was pushed back to early February 2013 so it had a chance to stand on its own legs. Also, 1 week before the game was released, there was another demo to show off the first level of the game, and I don't know why they released it so close to release date, but they did. There was also a lot of cut content for Sly 4, like a new game plus mode, another episode, 3 other villains, and so on and so forth. And when Sly 4 first came out, it had pretty positive reviews, and while not on the same level as the original trilogy, but it still had pretty decent reviews and calling it a great follow-up to the PS2 games and praising the game's design and graphics. And from all the positive reception that the game was getting, and the movie being revealed a year later, and even Sucker Punch being pleasantly surprised at how great the game was to them, it looked like Sly was finally back and was going to be coming back with more games, and with a new developer that has just as much of a passion as Sucker Punch did back then. What happened this time? So Sanzaru got bought by Facebook in early 2020, so even if they wanted to, they can't make another Sly game. And the sad thing is that some employees from Sanzaru said in an interview that fans wanted more Sly than asked Sony, and I'm sure there's still fans who are waiting for Sanzaru to do something. And it really sucks to see that Sly's future is pretty grim, since Sucker Punch has no interest in going back to the series, and Sanzaru can't really do anything with the IP anymore. But on the flip side, I hear a lot of people being split between this game, since some people love it and majority of people absolutely hate it, calling it the worst game of the series, which is kind of surprising to me because I thought after seeing a couple of people's reviews on the game, I thought Sly 4 was a good game. Although being the worst game in a series where the majority of games are great, it's not really much of a bad thing if we're being honest here. Where I stand on this personally, I love the fuck out of Sly 1 and 3, but I actually wouldn't play this game until a whole 4 years after the game came out, and I remember liking it. Yeah, that's it. I liked it, I put the game down, and I never played it again ever since. I mean, I guess I can be excited about playing it again after so long, but that's really all I can say here. So like watching the more like negative videos of the game and seeing how they like brought up some like really good points, I was kind of thinking like if like with these thoughts in the back of my head, like will I still be able to like enjoy the game like as much as I did when I first played it like 5 years ago? But like always, we're gonna start with the story, and I really feel like this is the weakest part of the story. I really feel like this is the weakest part of the game here. So yeah, and just like Sly 1, 2, and 3, this is all gonna be from like my perspective. I'm not gonna try to like analyze all the like deeper meanings of like all of the themes in this game. Not that Sly 3, not that Sly 4 like has a lot of like meaning in its story anyway. It's pretty basic. That much I'm gonna spoil like right this part of the video. So anyway, so let's see if the story of Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is entertaining for newcomers to the series. Starting right after the events of Sly 3, Sly and Carmelita are now a couple and are now working with each other. Mercer was using the team van in drag racing, and Bentley's still working on his new top secret project with Penelope, who's definitely gotten a lot prettier since the HD upgrade. How do you go from this to this in the span of one game? Anyway, while they're working on the project, Penelope just kind of disappears off the face of the planet. We never really found out how or why she disappeared, but she's nowhere to be seen. Bentley also finds out that a page of the Thieves raccoon has started to disappear, so he contacts Sly and Murray about it. And he also reveals that the secret project that he and Penelope were working on was a time machine, tying into the closing line from Sly 3. Bentley modifies it to fit in Murray's van, but the thing is, they can't go anywhere unless they have an item from a specific period, and it makes me just wonder, why do they need something from that time period just to get to the place that they want to go? Just using that specific thing wouldn't make them want to go to that exact location that they want to go. It should at least just be the timeline that they want to go and not the specific place and the specific time. But time travel is already a plot device that's pretty easy to fuck up if you don't set up some kind of rules, but did you have to make the way that they travel through time a little bit sketchy too? You say something like Bentley just made some kind of design changes so we can put in coordinates to go into a different timeline and problem solve. None of this item from an arrow to travel bullshit. Anyway, it turns out that the item that they need is a samurai dagger to get to Japan, and conveniently, it's from the same museum that Sly and Carmelita are screening. So then the gang pulls off a museum heist, and Sly finally upgrades from the Tiff to the Thief. Then when Sly steals the dagger, Carmelita catches Sly in the act, and the crew drives off. Right before they time traveled, they had Dimitri look after the Thieves raccoonist since they thought it would be too dangerous to bring it with them. Also, don't get too excited about Dimitri being here because this is the only time we get to see him in the game. The first Cooper ancestor that the Cooper gang needs to hit up is Sly's Japanese ancestor, Ryoichi Cooper, who also invented sushi when in reality it was actually some guy named Hanaya Yohei. But when Sly and the gang shows up to Japan, his sushi business shut down and Ryoichi's behind bars. Then Sly helps break Ryoichi out of jail, and this is something that's always bothered me since my first playthrough. But when Sly breaks out Ryoichi, he tells him that they're related, and that always made me wonder why that doesn't cause a time paradox. I get that the story probably wouldn't work if you just didn't talk to him, so they restore the flow of time, and they should still be able to interact with each other, but he shouldn't tell him that he's his ancestor, and conveniently enough, Sly's Japanese ancestor speaks English. After saving him, Ryoichi reveals that the reason why his sushi business is being shut down is because of the villain of this episode, El Jefe, a military mercenary who has conquered multiple countries all around the world. And to break into Jefe's stronghold, the gang helps Ryoichi proclaim his sushi shop. Oh, and Murray also does a lap dance in this episode too, and I never thought I would ever see a lap dance from a cross-dressing hippo, but Thieves in Time accomplished that, and I don't know if I should be impressed or uncomfortable here. Soon the Cooper gang broke into El Jefe's stronghold, where Jefe stole Ryoichi's cane, and Sly confronted him on top of the giant statue he built of himself. After a confrontation, Sly defeats El Jefe, but before he could retrieve Ryoichi's cane, he was ambushed by Gas Mask Rack, who swiped the cane and retreated back into a huge blimp, where Sly gets a glimpse of the person responsible for the events taking place. one of the rides accidentally dropped the sheriff's badge, which Sly took to use for the time machine. The gang contacts Dimitri, and he says that Tennessee Kid Cooper was the next target. After using the sheriff's badge to travel to the 1880s, they found out that Tennessee Kid Cooper was also arrested, this time by another sheriff by the name of Toothpick. But after realizing how tough the security is in that place, Sly says that he's gonna have to get arrested for the first time in his career to break Tennessee Kid Cooper out, which is technically not true since he turned himself into Carmelita at the end of Sly 2, and yeah, Bentley and Murray made sure that the helicopter was flying in circles so Sly had a chance to escape, but that line's kinda stupid, especially because of the fact that they showed that scene once in the opening prologue. Anyway, after Sly gets himself thrown into prison, he frees Tennessee and he tells the story of how he was thrown into prison. He planned out a bank heist, but Toothpick arrested him before he could even get inside the bank. But somehow there was still a robbery at that bank, and Tennessee was still charged for it even though he was still in prison when it all happened. What, to get a trial from the Piantas from Super Mario Sunshine? The game finds out that it was actually Toothpick who stole all the money and framed Tennessee for the robbery, and we also find out that backstory about Toothpick too. He was actually a gangster from Eastern Europe who pulled off multiple heists in his timeline, but someone gave him a chance to be a gunslinging sheriff. Later in the story, Toothpick manages to kidnap Carmelita and tries to send her off a cliff. Tennessee saves Carmelita, and Sly and the rest of the gang arrives, but literally seconds after they get captured by Toothpick. Tennessee and Carmelita go on another mission to rescue them, and they do that, but not before Carmelita eats out Sly for all the shit that he's pulled over the past couple of years. Anyway, Carmelita explains to Bentley how she got pulled into this mess. After they escaped from a museum, she looked around and found a collection of stolen treasure. Eluding them was Cyril A. Paradox, the billionaire art collector. He had her sent to Cottonmouth Bluff, where she was captured by Toothpick. Bentley learned that Toothpick planned on moving his stolen gold from the mines onto a special train, which was being supercharged by the Cooper van. To get both the gold and the van, the gang would need to catch the train while it's in motion. After Tennessee diverts the path to the train, the gang are able to raid it so Murray can get back his van, and also able to get back Tennessee's gold. But unfortunately, they managed to steal Tennessee's cane from him. But after Sly defeats Toothpick, he hops onto the van and Murray can't get it to stop. And right when they drive off a cliff, Bentley grabs Murray's Australian necklace and throws it into the time machine, and they end up in an unknown location. They see a pterodactyl flying in the sky, and when Bentley pulls out the dinosaur repellent, which he just has for some reason, Sly and the gang find out that they were in the prehistoric era, and since the van isn't working and Bentley can't contact Dimitri, they'll be staying in the cavern until they can get everything working. Sly sees a grizzly bear painting a picture and he sneaks into his lair to find out there's a prehistoric raccoon who's trapped in there. Once they free him, Bentley confirms that they're related, and when he tells him his name, Sly just calls him Bob. And just like the Guru, he speaks gibberish, but everyone can understand him, but unlike the Guru, he actually has subtitles. It's also confirmed that he's the first ever Cooper who started his whole bloodline. And I just really have to say, they really could have made them travel to Egypt so they can meet Sly Commons, because if we say that Bob was the first Cooper, then that will cause a plot hole in the series canon, since originally Sly Commons was believed to be the first Cooper. I don't know, I feel like the writers of Sanzaru could have thought of something more clever than this. Anyway, we found out that the bear who captured Bob and stole his cane was the Grizz, someone who made a living in the art world after getting caught doing graffiti on the wall. But when people realized that his paintings were just garbage, he lost everything and he was then transported to the prehistoric era where he hatched all of Bob's pterodactyl eggs, which caused him to go into a deeper depression, and Bob gained weight, which allowed him to get captured by the Grizz. Murray then helps Bob get back into shape so he can climb easier. So later, Sly eavesdrops on the Grizz to get the entry codes and schematics for the operation, but was unsuccessful. To Sly's surprise and pleasure, Carmelita showed up, and she revealed that she had the information already. The Cooper gang then raided Grizz's base, although things didn't go to as planned. Murray confronted Grizz and defeated him. Anyway, Murray contacts Dimitri, and we found out that the next area we have to go to is medieval England to find Sir Gallic Cooper, only to find out that he's been reduced to being a performer at a circus. We also still don't know anything about Penelope. You know, the girl who we brought up once in the opening cutscene and never again until now. I wonder if this episode has anything to do with Penelope. Anyway, after Bentley makes an Arthur disguise for Sly, he breaks into the circus and manages to free Sir Gallic. When he's taken back to the hideout, he explains how someone named the Black Knight overthrew his castle and stole his cane too. After Sly trails the Black Knight, Bentley tries to finish off the job, and this all leads into the most controversial part of the game.
Blasted suit is so hot. I need some air.
Much better. I can barely think in that thing.
It's not possible!
Phew, that thing's almost as stuffy as Bentley.
Penelope? But why would she...
Yep, Penelope is the villain of this episode. Before, I didn't really think that much about this plot twist, but I can see why this part of the story ruined Thieves in time for people. There's a lot of things wrong here, but I'll talk about it when we finish the story. After finding out about Penelope's betrayal, Bentley sort of just shuts down. and Sly and the rest of the gang takes things over, and Carmelita plants things in his place. First, Murray plants some bombs so he can detonate. Oh, I guess Murray can, so he just chooses not to in gameplay. Anyway, Murray detonates the bomb so the rest of the gang can cross through. They see Penelope and Sergala charges in there only to get his cane stolen again, and nobody really seems to be doing much to help him out. I'm pretty sure Sly can fire an arrow or Carmelita gets shoot out her shock pistol, but whatever. Sly fights the giant robot she builds, and once he takes it down, the thing falls on Sly's foot, and somehow he's not even hurt. Okay, this needs to be said. How come Bentley gets paralyzed when Clockwork's beak came falling down on him? Yet this 10-ton piece of machinery doesn't even break Sly's ankle. Bentley comes to the rescue with a mech that he built from the scraps of the dragon that he defeated earlier, and it's also where we find out about Penelope's true intentions. She thought that Bentley's potential was being wasted on Sly, and because of that, she decided to sell it to the Paradox. There's a lot of things wrong with this again, but I'll get to this later. After Bentley defeats Penelope, the gang finds out that Salim al-Kupar needs help from ancient Arabia. Salim was a part of the infamous 40 Thieves, but when they arrive, they find out that most of the Thieves are retired and Salim has just disappeared. Sly finds Salim and find out about Miss Decibel, who was born in England and wanted to share her love of music, but the only problem was that she's bad at it. You know, I always wonder who that guy was who threw her tomato at her. I mean, yeah, her playing was bad, but she was a kid, but most kids playing instruments sound terrible. Anyway, after getting a trumpet stuck in her trunk, she went on a mass crime spree. Right before Salim went into retirement, he and his gang prepared one last heist, but his gang got captured and Salim barely escaped with his life. Later, we hear a conversation between Miss Decibel and the Paradox, and Sly mentally improvised a plan to get the Thieves, since Miss Decibel ordered supplies for the Thieves, and Sly's going to be posing as the delivery man, and he uses an Italian accent, which I thought was a pretty fun callback to the last game, but in the context of this world, why not use an Arabian accent? What, because that would be racist? Anyway, after doing that, Bentley comes up with a plan to get past the security door, but they can't do it without his distraction, so Bentley decides a costume for Carmelita to belly dance, and Marie seems really persistent to want to cross-dress again.
However, since we don't want to announce our presence, we need a diversion for the guards. So I've taken the liberty of fashioning an outfit for Carmelita, who will use it to lure the guards away from their posts by, performing a belly dance.
What?
Possibly your best plan ever, Bentley.
I'm sorry I didn't ask, Carmelita, but you're the only one who can pull this off.
Bentley, I could do it.
I am not getting into that outfit.
I realize it's a bit revealing, but think of it as going undercover.
Bentley?
I'm positive the Murray could squeeze into that thing.
Hey, Carmelita, you should model that outfit for us, to make sure it fits.
Shut up, Ringtail. I'm only doing this for the team.
Listen, silk is very elastic.
All right, let's move out. We don't have any time to waste.
So after coming up with that plan, well, just look.
This is the worst undercover assignment ever.
So the Cooper gang gets the door to open and they find out that there's a docking station for the Paradox's time blimp. Bentley shuts down all the security and we also see him without his glasses for the first time ever, and it's the most cursed thing I've ever seen. But we finally meet the Paradox face to face, and he reveals that he already stole Salim's cane and ditches Miss Decibel, which leads to another battle with Sly coming out on top. But the Paradox has escaped and Carmelita is captured by him, and Sly says that this is the most defeat that they've ever felt, and I could make a joke about that, but I'm pretty sure everyone else already has, so I'll just move on. Now we return to the present day where the Paradox is a rule over everything. We find out a little bit about his backstory too. Apparently he was also from a family of thieves just like Sly, and his father was going to steal a giant ruby and frame Sly's father for it, only to have Sly's father's gang be one step ahead of him and steal the ruby, and this would motivate the Paradox enough to want to erase the Cooper line from history. Sly made it into the blimp attempting to save Carmelita, only for the Paradox to capture him. And let me just add the fact that Sly knew that this was a trap to begin with, but he still went running in there like a damn dope. While Sly gained the entrance to the Paradox's blimp, Bentley and Murray brought all the Coopers to the present day so they can retrieve their canes and stop the Paradox, and each ancestor goes back to their timeline each time they get their own cane. After all that, the Paradox reveals his true motives. He wanted to go back in time to erase the Cooper lineage to prove that his bloodlines are the better thieves, and I gotta say, that's really stretching it. I mean, it's basically the same thing that Clockwork was trying to do in the first game. It doesn't really make any sense for him to only target the Cooper gang when he could have done something in the past that could have made him be remembered as the best thief who's ever lived. And no joke, Sly even points out how stupid and Carmelita's plan is.
So, before we finish this, let me get one thing straight. You came after the Coopers because of what happened to your father?
No, you imbecile! I came after the Coopers to prove that Le Paradox is the greatest thief who has ever lived. Is there any doubt? Ask yourself this. If the Coopers were truly the greatest thieves in history, and I have stolen their most valued possessions, then what does that make me?
An idiot? You had it made. You could have been the biggest thief of all time, but you had to target my ancestors and blow your own cover. You exposed your operation because of your ego. No Cooper would have done that. And for the record, can you really say you stole the canes? Seems like your friends did all the real work.
I think I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Anyway, Sly and the Paradox fight one last time with Sly winning again, but when the Paradox is holding on for dear life, Sly saves him. The fuck is wrong with you? He tried to ruin your entire ancestry, and he steals Sly's paraglider, and he gets hit by an airplane, with the Paradox defeated and arrested. Both time in the Thieves, Raccoon is back to normal. At first, Bentley, Murray, and Carmelita all waited to assume that Sly would show up, but as weeks would pass, they had to accept the fact that he's not coming back. Despite all of this, DH continued to search for Sly, believing that he was still out there. But if you platinum trophy this game, you get a secret ending revealing that Sly's still alive, but somehow ended up in ancient Egypt, teasing another sequel, and it looks like the Sly series' habit of sequel baiting finally caught up to them since it's now 2022, and there's still no plans for a new game or even a revival. The gap between Sly 4 and now is now even longer than the gap was between Sly 3 and Sly 4. So I really feel like Sly, out of the 4 games, Sly 4 has the worst story. And even with Sly 1, it's pretty fairly basic story structure, and with all the problems I had with Sly 2's story, there was still a lot of stuff about those stories that I really appreciated about it. And I'm not gonna sit here ranting for 10 minutes on end about how the story is this atrocious, awful, abysmal thing. I honestly don't think that the story is that awful. It's just that the story fucking blows. Now, I feel like the story here had some massive shoes to fill if it wanted to follow up to the great ending that Sly 3 gave to the series, but instead it just left fans feeling really disappointed with the story, the writing, the handling of the characters, and the way the overall plot of Sly 4 was constructed. People hate the story, and it's the #1 reason why fans just don't enjoy the game in general. When I first played this game, I thought the story was alright, nothing special. Playing this game now, I can honestly say that the story fucking sucks. I was honestly expecting the worst part of this game's story to be the storytelling, but no, it was the characters that were the worst part for me. The characters have taken a huge hit in quality between the PS2 games to the PS3 games because they just feel like shells of their former selves. I feel like Sly got it the worst in this game. His character development kind of reminds me of how Goku was handled in Super, since he went from being a loyal, mature, and somewhat wise person in Z to a complete man-child in Super. Remember in the first video when I said what made Sly a great character is that he might make a lot of smart remarks at his opponents just to get on his nerves, but when the situation calls for it, he takes things seriously when it needs to. In this game, he's always making jokes every 5 seconds. I mean, he goes back to his normal self in episode 4, but that's only once in the entire game. Everybody around him is so fed up with him being snarky in this game, and I know that's a whole joke, but honestly, it hits way too close to home because I also just want Sly to shut up and do his job already. Plus, at the beginning of the game, he said that he has an itch to pull off another job, and honestly, that feels like a complete 180 to the last game, when Sly just wanted to have a life with Carmelita and just wanted to tell her how he felt about her. They could have at least made it seem like he had some kind of conflict with himself going back and forth whether he should do this or not, but instead he's just willing to do it and is even excited about it. Or maybe if Bentley and Murray tried doing something behind his back, then it wouldn't feel too out of character for Sly, but instead it just feels like a complete step back from what was established in the last game. Then we have him getting jealous of Carmelita hitting on his ancestors, which is honestly a really dumb plot point because not only does it just not make sense for Carmelita to start falling for them since they're all thieves just like Sly, but this also just makes Sly turn into a mopey teenager. And he even says that she's never had his back before when literally at the end of every Sly game she's helping out Sly, but just also says this.
But I find Galeth charming. He has a good heart, even if he is a headstrong goof.
Then you better get going before Sir Goof gets himself captured again.
Which feels completely out of character too because Sly's always had a deep respect for his ancestors since the first game. Overall, Sly has fallen far from grace in this game. Murray's been reduced to just being the fat guy of the group who just talks about food a lot, and I didn't really notice this until we got to episode 3, where almost everything Murray says has something to do with food.
During my illustrious sumo career, I developed the strength to move my opponent, no matter how big. I also won the ramen eating championship, but that's another story. Real fighter knows when to strike and when to back off. Like whether or not to have one more pepperoni and chocolate chip burrito. Like the Murray, you need to develop your reaction speed, and not just at the dinner table. Aw, shucks. Hey, I'm starved. Anybody bring anything to eat? French fries? Pizza? Anything? An apple?
Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up!
Shut up!
Murray's way has always been a part of the character, but it wasn't his entire personality, and after seeing all the growth that he's gone through go completely out of the window, it really sucks. They're trying to make him go through another arc with them feeling bad that he can't climb like Bob, but this also feels like a step back from what was established in Sly 2, because in that game, he realized that he might not be as nimble as Sly or as smart as Bentley, but the one thing he can do is punch shit. And this all feels even worse when Bentley tells him that. After everything he went through in the second and third game, it really should have been easy for the people at Sanzaro to come up with something a little more creative than this, but Murray's characterization, while I don't think it was fucked up as bad as Sly's, could have been better here. I hear a lot of people saying that Carmelita is way too bitchy in this game with everyone, but honestly, I don't really blame her. Sly's lied to her for how many years has passed since Sly 3, has been acting like a dickhead to her the entire game, and makes lewd comments about her while she's in her belly dancing outfit, so yeah, I'd probably act the same way if I was in her position. But in this game, it really does feel like she was just shoehorned into the plot because they needed a fourth character in the story. Honestly, Carmelita felt like she was really sexualized in this game. Not only because of her belly dancing section, but they switched out her pants for a miniskirt, and in her trailer for the game, there's so much jiggle fakes on her that even the Dead or Alive that developers would blush. Like, I thought Sucker Punch had to think of her Carmelita after the Karma Lodger thing in the last game, but somebody at Sanzaro obviously had way too much fun animating all this. Like, calm down guys, you gotta remember, this game is rated E. You're gonna make kids hit puberty like 7 years too early. Bentley is the only one here who acts the most like his old self, and I even like how Joe's friends over his girlfriend, since it kinda goes back to a speech about how he, Sly, and Murray are like brothers and all stick by each other, but the game acts like this is a whole new arc for him, when in Sly 2, the core point of his development there, that he witnessed his friends getting kidnapped and then getting them back and getting this newfound confidence. Here Bentley's depressed once, and suddenly his personality is completely changed. It's also implied that Clockwork was another reason why, but they never mention Clockwork once in this game, and it's only in a flashback. The characters here don't really go through a lot of personal struggles like they did in the second and third game. All we get here is stuff like Murray feeling useless, Sly and Carmelita bickering, and then just making up by just looking at each other, and Bentley being heartbroken about Penelope's betrayal. They're all pretty surface level problems. There's also Carmelita realizing that there's more to Sly than a thief, but that was already explored in the first game. There's nothing like the guilt that Murray felt when he couldn't save Bentley, or when Bentley was starting to feel jealous about Sly, but then realizing that the three of them are like brothers. There's nothing like that here. Oh yeah, I should probably bring up Penelope's plot twist of being a villain. Like I said, this was a part of the game that ruined Thieves in time for a lot of people, but the thing is, I don't really think that this is a bad idea on paper though. She fooled everyone that she was a Black Baron for years, so I don't think it would be that far-fetched to think that she would try to do something like that again. It's just that the execution was just god-awful. The thing about this whole twist is that it wasn't built up properly throughout the game. Penelope disappears once in the opening cutscene, we forget about her for 3 episodes, then they suddenly bring her back up again. Even the reveal wasn't really that well executed because she drops her name right before the player finds out the Black Knight is her. Oops. And I feel like they could have done something better than her wanting to get rich with Bentley, since she's always shit-talking Sly's honorable thief nonsense, but the only problem was she wasn't on that too. Her and Bentley kinda had a one-on-one conversation about that in Sly 3. Maybe if the Paradox said something that would make Penelope want to join her, like her mastery in technology would do a lot of good for society, or something like that, because it's kinda hard to believe that she would sell out the Cooper gang just to get rich. And we don't even see her again after that episode. Bentley just knocks her out and she's out of commission. Maybe if she had like a small moment of redemption where she helps out the Cooper ancestors get their canes back or help out Sly in the final boss, but whatever. The ancestors in this game were pretty cool, though that's because they don't really have any prior personalities to be fucked up, but I like Tennessee Kid Cooper. Ryuichi was pretty cool, even though he went on about being a cool ninja and shit. Slim was a decent addition to the crew, and I like Sergalis too. Bob Cooper was probably the only one I could have gone without since he's only there so Murray could go through his quote-unquote arc, but everyone else is fine. But the villains on the other end were the weakest the series had to offer, and in a series where most of the villains were pretty good, these guys are really underwhelming, and it doesn't really help the fact that these guys feel like rehashes of villains from the older games. El Jefe kind of feels like a mix between Rajan in the second game and General Sal in the last game. Grits just feel like a discounted Dimitri, Miss Decibel just feels like Miss Ruby from the first game, Toothpick is the only one here who feels original, but he's not even that good of a villain either. Plus I can barely understand what he's saying half of the time without subtitles.
We's going to learn you don't yank a rattlesnake's tail, lest you're looking to get bit.
What type of accent is the voice actor trying to do here? It sounds like Russian mixed with Italian mixed with French. Even though Paradox is just Clockwork's skunk persona, they even make the same stupid mistakes in their plans too. Clockwork with not killing Sly as a child, and Paradox with only going after the Cooper family. The writing here also feels like I'm watching a Saturday morning cartoon, since there's a lot more jokes here than usual. In the Sucker Punch games, there's a little bit of a mature edge with the dialogue. Here, I definitely feel like it's been dumbed down because the characters being drastically different from their original incarnations. There's a lot of references to old 80s movies and shows, and some of them did make me laugh.
The last time I was in these sewers, I was just a teenager.
Okay, I've been pretty negative so far, but there are some things I like about the story. I like how it made a little Easter egg to the first comic with the cookie heist. If there's one thing I'll give Thieves in Time props for, is that it's brimming with callbacks and references to past games. I also really like how Bentley's plans, instead of being a picture slideshow, Bentley upgraded to a Google slideshow. It's a pretty cool visual, and I appreciate the extra effort, since it would have been pretty easy for them to do the same thing from the original trilogy. I also really like how there's more animated segments in an episode, and not only at the start and end of the level. It was a nice transition having them go from a comic book motion picture to a full-on animated movie. I also really like how characters other than Sly narrate over these cutscenes, and I hope people did that in the second and third game, but it's cool to see more of this. The art style took a little bit for me to get used to, but I like how these look. The voice acting is also really good in this game too. I would honestly go as far as saying that it's on par with the third game. Sly and Bentley's voice actors do a great job as usual. Morty's voice actor still does the same impression of him that he did in the last game, and again, I don't think that's bad, I just like the second game's voice better. And for the fourth time in a row, Carmelita gets a new voice actor, and she's way better than her last one. I recognized her the moment she started talking. It's Greg Griffin. I love this woman as Azula in Avatar The Last Airbender, and she does a great job as Carmelita here too. I would say that it's just as good as her voice in the second game, and she does the Latina accent almost perfectly.
As much as I like the idea of Sly in a cell, nobody kidnaps Inspector Carmelita Fox and gets away with it!
And also want to bring up the fact that Nolan North, aka Nathan Drake, voices not only the Paradox, but El Jefe as well.
Sorry, Cooper. You lose. I need to deliver this puny stick to a new owner. My plan was perfect.
Sorry, pal. You just can't plan for a Cooper.
Just please help me.
Why should I?
I do not wish to die.
Overall, Sly 4's story is definitely the worst part of the game, and it's easy to see why. I'm going to tackle the gameplay now, since I feel like I've said everything I feel like I had to say about the story, so yeah. I mean, I honestly didn't think I would have a lot to say about the story, but at the same time, I mean, it wasn't as long as Sly 3's story summary, so I guess it's a win-win. Now, despite the story stumbling on its toes, the core gameplay is actually really great here. Yeah, it's not completely void of problems, but the game here is something that I typically expect from a Sly game, and I think that Sanzaro pretty much did a great job on adapting the fun mechanics that was established in the last two games, and bringing it to another generation, and you guys are acting like the game overall, from the story alone, is on the same level as Enter the Dragonfly or Lost Frontier. But yeah, this game follows the same structure as Sly 2 and 3, big open areas with missions spread out all over the place that you can do. In this game, there's only 5 episodes throughout the game, 7 if you want to count the prologue and epilogue. Now, the hub worlds have been increased in size a lot since the previous game, and while that might sound like a bad thing, but the only reason why it's not as bad as it was in 2 is because of the fact that now, when you're in the overworld, you have this little radar showing where you need to go next, and if that's not enough, you have this little mini-map on the bottom of your screen with the little markers and everything showing you your next objective. This might not seem like a massive deal, even though Sly 3 managed to make everything more streamlined. This all feels like a godsend after going through Sly 2 and 3, because at this point, there's really no reason for you to get lost anymore. To be fair, it's not like it was super easy to get lost in 2 and 3, but this just makes going places and collecting all the clue balls so much easier to do since you got a map to show you all the landmarks and a radar showing you where to go. Yeah, the clue balls from 2 are back, and I usually like to talk about the collectibles until later, but I might as well just get them out the way now. Clue balls in this game are honestly way better to collect than they were in Sly 2, because in Band of Thieves, the clue balls were really annoying to collect because they were just spread out way too much all around the level. In Thieves in Time, they're not spread out as much as they were in Sly 2, but also helps is now they show up on the map, so now you can just open up the map and you'll be able to find out where you need to go to find any missing clue bottles. None of that clinking noise bullshit. So now there's no more constantly going back and forth and back and
forward and back and then forward and back and then go forward and back, then put 1 foot forward
for one ball that you're missing. If you got all the cool balls in the level, you can open up a safe just like in Sly 2, but unlike Sly 2, you don't get any powers. You just get another piece of treasure. The treasures from the second game come back here too, and they serve the same purpose as they did in that game, getting coins to buy on ThiefNet, but they went with the Sly 3 route into making the coins already be transferred to your total point count whenever you collect them. Anyway, these don't show up on the map like the cool balls, and they definitely need you to look around a lot more too. I'm gonna be honest here, guys. The only reason why I managed to platinum trophy this game as fast as I could was because I was using a guide. I'm sure I could have found them all by myself since I found all the clue balls in Sly 2, but honestly, I'm just ready to get this marathon done and over with at this point. I really like how a lot of these treasures are callbacks to previous games. That was pretty cool. Then we have the Sly Mask, which not only appear in a hub world, but also appear in missions too, so this gives you a reason to replay the missions. There's also one of these arcade machines too. Anyway, the more stuff you collect, you unlock more cosmetics and different skins for Sly and the gang, and I also love how one of the skins gets Sly's Ratchet's Wrench, so when you kill enemies, they turn into bullets and not coins. It even transfers into cutscenes too, even though it can make Sly look like he's grabbing thin air. But if you platinum trophy this game, you get a secret ending showing that Sly's stuck in Egypt, so would I say 100% Sly 4 is worth it? I mean, I guess it's worth it for the extra skins and stuff, but maybe not the secret ending. The hideout basically serves the same purpose as it did in the last 2 games, picking characters to play as during missions and buying power-ups on ThiefNet. But the hideout itself also seems to have changed since the last game. Now there's a treasure roll that shows off all the treasures that you collected throughout the game. A costume gallery which shows off every costume collected throughout the game. There's a table tennis minigame where Sly and Bentley just have a round of the game. And there's these arcade machines inside of every hideout, and you get a trophy for getting the highest score in all of them. But now that's all out the way, let's talk about the main trio's gameplay. Their gameplay is pretty much stayed untouched going from Sly 2 to Sly 3 to Sly 4, so this will be pretty short. Sly's just as acrobatic as he was in the last 2 games. He can still backflip, side flip, climb on everything, tightrope walk, rail slide, everything is here and accounted for. The controls did take a little bit for me to get used to. I didn't really like how when you're running in one direction and immediately move the analog stick into the other direction, so I just kind of slides for a little bit and not immediately go to the other direction, but once I got used to it all, everything just felt naturally. Climbing, doing all the stuff I could do in the last 2 games was just as much fun here as it was there. I also really like how now you don't have to hold on to the circle button anymore to shimmer past walls. Just press the button and you're good. But for some reason, Sly still stops dead in his tracks whenever he swings his cane in midair, and I criticized Sly 3 for this, so I have to criticize Sly 4 for it just to be fair. Sly's costumes from 3 come back here too, and this time they're not only needed for story-related missions, but they're also needed to find some of the treasures, and I like that because it gives the game a little bit more replay value, because it gives the player a reason to come back to the game when they finish it. Sure, it's a little bit annoying for someone like me who typically likes to get the collectibles as soon as they can, so I won't have to worry about coming back later, but I like this approach though. Anyway, the first costume is the General's outfit, which tricks guards in episode 1 into thinking that you're one of their commanding officers. It's also flame retardant, so you can just walk through flames and come out unscathed. You can also reflect fireballs, which is pretty helpful for getting treasures too. The only problem with this thing is that its default speed is way too slow. Next is the Jailbird outfit. With this on, you carry a heavy ball chained to your ankle, which cuts down your speed tremendously, and while that might sound like a bad idea for an outfit, it's actually a good thing because the ball that you carry around can break things that have a red mark on it, and you can also roll in it to avoid lasers or just move faster. The Sabretooth costume makes Sly's movement slower, but it lets him play dead to trick guards and to think that he's a dead tiger, and alright, this is something that I've been ignoring this entire marathon, but I might as well just bring it up now. How do animals work in this universe? Why are some animals anthropomorphic but others just aren't? Isn't Sly wearing a tiger skin suit the equivalent to if we just get another human alive and we just started wearing it as clothes? Then there's Bentley and Murray fishing, and it makes me wonder, since this is a universe mostly full of animals, wouldn't that be kind of dark, or do fish just not follow the same rules as mammals here? I know I'm probably like thinking way too deep into this, but like, it's just something that like just bothers me more and more as the games go on. Anyway, he can also leap across large distances while he's in this costume. The Archer outfit lets Sly shoot an arrow for him to walk on, but only when there's a bucket of arrows that are right next to him. And finally we have the Thief outfit, which allows Sly to one-shot guards with a sword, and slow down time for a short period of time. Overall, I like the costumes in this game. They don't feel as situational as they did in Sly 3. Bentley controls largely the same way he did in Sly 3. The only difference is being that his triple jump has been replaced with a hover, and Bentley programmed raw hands into his wheelchair, and this makes pickpocketing with him so much faster than it was in Honor Among Thieves, because in that game, Bentley used a magnet to get coins, and it cut down Bentley's speed too. Here it's the same as Sly. Honestly, I don't have anything else to say about Bentley's gameplay in this game, since it's been completely untouched since the last game, and don't worry, I already like his gameplay in Sly 3. That just leaves us with Murray, who again, plays exactly like he did in Sly 3, except for the fact that he doesn't have his ball form anymore. Out of the 3 characters, I feel like Murray had the short end of the stick because his style feels a lot more simplified in comparison to Sly 3 and maybe even 2. Close range combat with him feels a little bit clunky sometimes, and he can't even do his signature uppercut kill anymore. I do like how they gave him the ability to pickpocket again, even though the guards just disappear after you do. There is a new move that he can do where he just slams guards onto the ground, and I thought that was pretty cool. I even like how Murray's Thunder Flop is a lot more quicker and snappy too, and you even get an upgrade that increases the radius, but overall Murray's my least favorite character to play as in this game, but I guess that's not too bad since you don't really get to play as him as much as you did in Sly 3, but I feel like this is a problem that this game suffers from: character balancing. Older games made sure that it was 40% Sly, 30% Bentley, and 30% Murray. In this game, it's more like 75% Sly, 10% Bentley, 10% Murray, and a 5% Carmelita. Oh right, Carmelita's in this game! I legit just forgot about her because she's literally only playable in like, what, 2 or 3 missions? She plays mostly like she did in Sly 3, but instead of a third-person shooter, it's now in the perspective of a first-person shooter. So that means that she doesn't really have that awesome jump anymore. But that's kind of what I mean about character balancing in Sly 4. Since he's playing as Sly and his ancestors most of the time, the other characters don't really get as much time to shine like they should. But anyway, let's talk about the big thing that Sly 4 brings to the table. For Sly 2, it was Murray and Bentley being playable. And for Sly 3, it was having 5 other playable characters, and I guess Bentley being in a wheelchair too. In Sly 4, Sly's ancestors are now playable, and with the exception of Bob Cooper, they all play just like Sly, but with one ability unique to them. With the real Richie, he can spiral jump place to place faster. Tennessee Kid Cooper has a gun that he can shoot, and even has a crack shot mode, which allows him to shoot multiple targets at the same time. Bob Cooper can climb, which is actually a lot cooler than it sounds, trust me. Sergala has the wall hug move, which is another variation of the hook swing move that Sly has. And Celine can climb up ropes and ladders a lot faster, but it really just feels like they just added him into the game just to make Aladdin references. Like seriously, his paraglider is literally a magic rub, and his silent takedown has him trapping guards in the lamps. Out of all the ancestors, Bob is the weakest one out of the bunch. Since he doesn't play as Sly, he just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Other than him, there were none of these guys I didn't like playing as. But again, since they all play like Sly, at least the other characters being sidelined. But I think we've talked about the main characters enough. Just like the last 3 games, we have to talk about the extra content, but let's just get the obvious one out of the way. The 6-axis minigames. Yeah, you know the 6-axis, the motion sensor that's inside the DualShock 3. No. Yeah, well, if you don't remember, or just straight up didn't know, this game is gonna make you remember, because I swear this game has a fucking fetish for the 6-axis, because it's everywhere in this game. For me, it's not even the fact that the minigames are bad to begin with, but it's more because why I have it here in the first place. Wasn't the 6-axis like a thing in PS3 games like from like 2007 and 2008? Like, this game came out the same year as the PS3. Who cared or even remember the 6-axis at this point? I was really scared about getting to these 6-axis sections, not because they suck, because when I was playing through the first Uncharted earlier this year, and I got to the 6-axis points, the 6-axis in my controller wouldn't work, and so it just let me scared when I would get to these parts, but thankfully, when I did the fishing minigame in episode 1, everything was working all fine, but I just knew that that minigame right there was an omen for things to come. This puzzle right here where you have to tilt this orb around the level, it's so easy for you to fall off, and sometimes the motion sensors just doesn't even work, and I would just lose my shit whenever that happens. And this is going to be a huge problem, but these types of hackathons are plastered everywhere around the game. But other than that, the 6-axis in Sly 4 isn't that bad, and I really mean that too. I mean, it had no business being here in the first place, but that's the only thing about the 6-axis in this game that was a huge problem. The only other thing you have to do with it is opening safes and making Carmelita shake her ass in her lap dance minigame. The 6-axis is more of a small inconvenience than something that's frustrating me to no end. But now that's out of the way, let's get into everything else. Bentley hacking comes back in this game, and there's 3 iterations of it. The first one being the one established in the second and third games. Then there's the blue code where you shoot out projectiles and create loops to destroy things that won't work with your normal pea shooter. And then there's the purple code which lets you fire off bombs, but it's pretty short range, so you have to get up close to get some hits. The other hacking minigame is the 6-axis one that I brought up earlier, and finally there's Alter Ego, where you get to play as Bentley's avatar and pretty much go through a twin-stick shooter, and this is easily my favorite one. Bentley's RC vehicles come back in this game too. His RC car is relegated to following the villains. The car can boost for a short burst of speed and shoot obstacles in its way, and has a chicken head that it can use to trick guards. There's his RC copter, and it controls the same way it did in Sly 2, but accurate aiming is pretty annoying since the bombs drop in an arc. Then there's the cannon that's used to protect Bentley in missions, but it's nowhere near as bad as the ones in Sly 1 and 3 where you have to protect Murray, mainly because the cannon has a lock-on, so there's no way you can kill Bentley, not even on accident. There's also a mission where you have to make sarsaparilla and serve it to the patrons at the bar, and that mission was alright. Even getting the trophy for this mission wasn't that bad. But that's all the missions here, and they're better than the first and second games, but I don't really know if I would say that they're better than the ones in the third game. But overall, I think Sly 4's extra content is, at its best, decent, but at its worst, it can be mildly annoying. Holy shit, we're almost done. Let's talk about the bosses. El Jefe was pretty decent. His patterns took me a little bit to get used to, and the boss, they feel like it was dragging at some points, but other than that, it's a good boss. I even like how they incorporated the samurai outfit in a way that flew pretty well throughout the boss fight. Toothpick was a little bit annoying because you have to use the jailbird outfit, and I don't think switching between the jailbird costume and Sly's regular outfit flows as well as the samurai outfit because of how slow it is, and combined with how fast Toothpick throws his bombs, it's pretty easy to get your health drained throughout the boss fight. Then we have the Grizz, and most of it is a rhythm minigame for some reason. This is one of the weakest bosses in the game because it's way too easy. They try hiding the button prompts to make it harder, but it doesn't really help since we can see them for a full 30 seconds before they disappear. Next we have Penelope, and I actually like this boss. It kind of reminds me of a game of Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I like how you just can't go into the fight thinking that you can just start wailing on her if it's the first chance you get. You need to dodge her attacks before you start throwing punches, and I really like that. There's also a boss fight with Carmelita where you have to fight this dragon, and I like it too since it actually requires skill to beat it, unlike the last game where all you have to do is just spam the R1 button over and over again to win. The Paradox is without doubt the worst final boss in the series, and yes, it even includes the Clockla boss fight in Sly 2. It's a goddamn quick time event. All you have to do is press a button that shows up, and I honestly don't think that it's possible to die from this boss fight or even get hit. Okay, I got hit twice, but that was only because I was distracted. The Sandstorm just did not have enough time to make another boss fight, so they just made a QTE. What a great way to end the series, guys. Anyway, we talk about every single aspect of this game there is to talk about, so let's talk about the graphics, the soundtrack, and finally my overall thoughts about this game. This is by far the best looking Sly game since it's on HD technology. It can go way beyond the limits of the PS2 games and make it look even better. I remember I thought this game looked amazing back then. I still think that the graphics have aged pretty gracefully. Sometimes I just like to sit there and just rotate the camera just to get a great look at the environments here. It's nice seeing how well things already translated the graphical style from PS2 games to PS3, especially since this game came out pretty late into the PS3's life too. The game can look a little bit dark in some areas, but that was a thing in the first two games, and I guess Sanzaru wanted to capture every little detail from the Sucker Punch games. There's also so much attention to detail here, and I love that. Like how Murray has a keychain of the Guru in his Binocucom, Bentley has a picture of Penelope in his Binocucom, then when we find out about Penelope's true intentions in the story, he scribbles all over the picture. Whenever you die, time goes back to where you were before, coins match the time period that you're in, and Sly's different costumes give him different variations of his health bar. The cutscenes are great to watch here too. The character models are probably at their highest quality in this game. The textures are nice, and it's a good evolution for their PS2 models. It also helps out since for the first time ever in a Sly game, characters are finally animated in fluid detail, and don't go through the same repeated body, lip, and face movements like in the last two games. I still think that the character models in the last two games look pretty good even today, but the way the characters change expressions from one frame can make it look a little bit janky, especially in comparison to the Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank's cutscenes. Now everybody moves more naturally and facial expressions are on point too. I feel like Bentley's the best example of this, when he has glasses on anyway. I don't think we've ever seen Bentley emo like this before. You can tell when he's happy, when he's sad, when he's scared, when he's in over his head, or when he's just tired of Sly shit. But yeah, everyone else here looks pretty good, and probably the best part of the cutscenes is that now you can finally skip them. Yeah, even some of the Binocucom conversations too. Overall, it's a great game to look at, except when the frame rate isn't constantly dying trying to render all these large locations. Episode 5 and especially Episode 3 get the worst of this issue. Episode 3 not being too far off from looking like I'm watching a video from the 30s. That and the loading times are really inconsistent. Sometimes they can be 10, maybe 20 seconds long, and then they go as long as an entire minute. Peter McConnell came out to make the music in this game, and it's just as good, sometimes even better than the original trilogy. Because of the time travel motif, I felt like it allowed McConnell to go all out with the soundtrack with this game, since there's a lot of different instrument types that will go along pretty well with the theme of the levels, and in my opinion, none of these songs are misses. But even though the soundtrack is pretty good, the sound effects are a little bit weaker than the first three games, especially when it comes to hitting enemies, because hitting guards in this game just has less of an impact than it did before. And sometimes some sounds just don't even play at all. So yeah, this game has a couple of issues with it. The story's a mess, the characters have been completely flanderized, character balancing sucks too, and the 6-axis controls, but my time with Sly Cooper Thieves in Time was actually really fun, and I can actually see myself coming back to this game whenever I'm replaying the first 3 games. The game on its core is what I expect from the Sly series, it makes improvements where it was needed, and I feel like it makes for a pretty fun experience that I can enjoy. But I know some Sly fans care for the story and characters just as much as the main gameplay, and I totally get it, because one of the main selling points of the series, in my opinion at least, was the characters and what they go through, but instead they were all watered down in this game, and I can understand why the story would bring down the entire experience for some people. If you've been a Sly fan since the series started back in 2002, it just doesn't bother me personally. To me guys, gameplay takes up 75% of the experience for me. Yeah, I thought that the story sucked and had completely stupid decisions in the writing, but I had too much fun with the game to even care. With Sly 4, I'm willing to take the good with the bad and just go like, yeah, there's a lot of issues with the game, but it's still a pretty solid game for what it is. But at the end of the day, if you're a Sly fan who loves the series for its characters, writing, and story, this might not be the game for you, since this game basically reinvented the characters and the story is an absolute far cry from the original trilogy, even Sly 1 with how simple the story is. But if you like the core gameplay of the series just as much, then you'll feel right at home with Sly 4, since how the game plays was mostly untouched between the second and third games. But that being said, if you tried out the original trilogy and you weren't really impressed by it, I can't really say that Sly 4 will make a difference, since again, it's the gameplay from 2 and 3, but with some tweaks to it. While I do like this game, I would be lying if I said this game had any reason to exist, because it feels kind of unneeded to continue the series since Sly 3 ended everything so well, but now the Cooper game's in disarray. Sly's stuck in Egypt, and neither Saints or Sucker Punch will probably ever make another Sly game again, but if I'm being honest here, I've sort of made peace with that. If more Sly content comes back in any shape or form, then I would say remake the first 3 games, then make Sly 5, and just stop at that point, because I feel like I speak for almost everyone in the community when I say that we would have been completely fine if the series ended with Sly 3. But if Sly 5 had an ending that's on par or even better than Sly 3, then I would be satisfied, but if not, then I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine with just replaying the original trilogy every once in a while, and even Thieves in time too. As for the Vita port and Bentley's hack pack, I'm not going to be looking at those. The PS Vita version of Sly 4 is basically the same game but with worse graphics and a frame rate that's split in half. And for Bentley's hack pack, it's basically just a hacking minigames from the main game. The entire reason it exists in the first place was to keep fans occupied since Thieves in time was delayed. But that's it. We're finally done. I finally reviewed all 4 just Sly Cooper games in the entire series, and it's funny to me how like there was like actual time where I was thinking about like doing all 4 of these games for one video. It's like I mean, even like when I was like writing the scripts for the first game, I was thinking like, oh, four videos, I could probably just like knock this all out in like maybe 2 months. But I genuinely didn't think I would have this much to say about these games. But, like, I mean, I had a feeling that they would be lengthy, but like I didn't think I would make like maybe like 5 hours worth of content, all because of this goddamn raccoon and its friends too. I mean, I'm honestly glad that this game only has like 4 games in the series. Because like doing videos like as long as this, like back to back, like it's some kind of form of burnout that I never want to experience. I was also thinking about like doing an Uncharted marathon after I finish this one, but seeing how long this whole marathon was, I feel like I should probably like hold that off until, I don't know, maybe not until like next year or something. I don't know, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little Sly Cooper retrospective, because yeah, it was. I love these games, but like, fuck, it was really exhausting. Going from the first video, which is like 40 minutes long, and then going from the second video, and then the Sly 3 video was over like it's like almost a movie length time, and then we have this video. It's crazy, but I know you guys are probably wondering if I'm just gonna like make a video of ranking like all 4 Sly games like I did for Jak and Daxter, but fuck it, I'm tired of talking about Sly at this point. But I feel like, I'm probably just gonna give you guys a quick list from like from top to bottom, best to worst. I'm just gonna give you guys a quick list just to get that out of the way. So at the top we got Sly 3 because of how much it improves from Sly 2, and then we have Sly 1 because I'm a nostalgia whore. It might be a bit of a controversial choice, but Sly 4 because even though the story kind of sucks, I still have fun with the game. And finally Sly 2 because I still think that it's a great game, but I feel like it drags on longer and longer than it needs to. I feel like it's safe to say that I'm probably gonna take like maybe 2 weeks off from like posting videos, because like, again, you guys saw how long the Sly 3 video was, and like honestly at this point I just want to get some rest. So yeah, but we're gonna be kicking off the new year with a double header of Freedom Planet 1 and 2, and we're gonna be looking at the newest entry to the Sonic franchise, Sonic Frontiers. So yeah, I hope you guys look forward to that. So in the meantime, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that fucking alert button, share to all your friends, all that other bullshit. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.